I'm now going to take a moment. I have the privilege to summarize some of my own research on Iraq from the book, Iraq, the Logic of Withdrawal. This comes from the first chapter of that book. Every single argument the Bush administration made to justify the invasion of Iraq turned out to be false. Iraq had no weapons of mass destruction, posed no imminent threat to the United States, and had no connection to al-Qaeda or to the terrorist attacks of September 11th, 2001. Iraq was attacked not because it had weapons of mass destruction, but because it did not. U.S. soldiers were not greeted as liberators, and the occupation did not pay for itself, require few troops, or quickly conclude. Nor has the occupation made the world safer. Indeed, it has made Iraq, the Middle East, and the world far more dangerous. None of these facts should be a surprise. They were all publicly predicted by the anti-war movement, which the media systematically ignored. On every substantive point, the anti-war movement has turned out to be right, and the war's backers turned out to be wrong. Yet a precondition for being considered an expert on Iraq, or other possible military interventions for that matter, in the establishment media seems to be that you were wrong about Iraq, while those who are proven right are nowhere to be seen. Former Washington Post assistant managing editor Karen DeYoung put the matter most succinctly. We are inevitably the mouthpiece for whatever administration is in power, she said. Almost without exception, the explanations for the enormous gap between Bush administration rhetoric and the reality on the ground in Iraq rested on a shared and utterly baseless assumption that President Bush acted in good faith, or perhaps with an excess of idealism, in pursuit of the objectives he announced to the world. The reality, however, is that the administration consistently manipulated intelligence to engineer popular support for a war of choice, to use the expression of one of its main supporters, New York Times columnist Thomas Friedman. The attacks of September 11th, 2001 provided the pretext the Bush administration needed to portray an offensive war to reshape the Middle East as a defensive measure to protect the people of the United States. The Bush administration saw the horrific events of September 11th as an opportunity to carry out plans that long predated the attacks, and immediately set to work to target Iraq, despite the fact that the country had no link at all to the hijackings. Indeed, leading members of the Bush administration were open about describing the post-September 11th moment as an opportunity. After September 11th, Condoleezza Rice, Bush's national security advisor and former Secretary of State, asked the national security staff to think about how to capitalize on these opportunities, which she said were shifting the tectonic plates in international politics to U.S. advantage. I really think this period is analogous to 1945 to 1947, she told Nicholas Lehman of The New Yorker. And it is important to try to seize on that and position American interests and institutions and all of that before they harden again. A number of Bush advisors felt that regime change in Iraq could begin a process of rollback in the Middle East, serving as a springboard for further changes in the region that would ensure U.S. hegemony. As political scientist Michael Clare rightly noted at the time of the March 2003 invasion, the removal of Saddam Hussein and his replacement by someone beholden to the United States is a key part of a broader U.S. strategy aimed at assuring permanent global American dominance in the Middle East. The United States, he writes, has extended the Carter Doctrine, the idea that the United States will defend its vital interests in the Persian Gulf by any means necessary, including military force, to the global stage. He goes on, today the Carter Doctrine stretches far beyond the Persian Gulf. It is the blueprint for the extension of U.S. military power to the world's other oil-producing regions. Just as existing U.S. policy calls for the use of military force to protect the flow of oil from the Persian Gulf, an extended Carter Doctrine now justifies similar action in the Caspian Sea region, Latin America, and the west coast of Africa. Slowly but surely, the U.S. military is being converted into a global oil protection service. In the more candid moments, Bush administration apologists acknowledged that U.S. interests in Iraq were about straight power politics. An American-led overthrow of Saddam Hussein and the replacement of the radical Ba'athist dictatorship with a new government more closely aligned with the United States, asserted former Bush speechwriter David Frum, would put America more wholly in charge of the region than any power since the Ottomans, or maybe even the Romans. U.S. planning for the new invasion of Iraq, which was otherwise so haphazard, laid out in considerable detail the quick takeover of the country's oil fields. Indeed, the first areas seized by the invading troops in southern Iraq were named Forward Operating Base Exxon and Forward Operating Base Shell. Iraqis were also quick to note that in the chaos following the invasion, U.S. troops secured the interior and oil ministries, but stood by while museums, weapons caches, and even sites with nuclear-rated materials were looted. By intervening in Iraq, the Bush administration hoped not only to entrench its control of the Middle East, but to more firmly establish the right of the United States to intervene anywhere that it perceives as a potential threat to its imperial interests. The Bush administration, with the Democrats safely in tow, intended the war in Iraq, like its war in Afghanistan, to have a demonstration effect. As one unnamed hawk quoted in the New York Times put it, "By setting up our military in Iraq, we can set an example to other countries. If you cooperate with terrorists, or menace us in any way, or even look at us cross-eyed, this could happen to you." Things did not, of course, turn out as Washington intended. The invasion of Iraq in March 2003 and the subsequent occupation of the country have already had profound consequences for world politics. The U.S. has made the world a far more dangerous place, with disastrous consequences for the people of Iraq, the region, and beyond. We must continue to document and expose these facts, which are effectively being written out of history, which is why this tribunal today is so crucial. And we must learn the lessons of this period to prevent future wars, without ever giving up the demand for reparations to the Iraqi people and full accountability for those who committed these crimes of war. Thank you.